Why do we in karate pull our hand back to our hip when we make our punches and techniques? Quite often the argument for the hand returning in traditional martial arts is that it supposedly creates more power through rotation. However, we see in other martial arts that this is disproved really. You know, when we look at boxing, boxers don't bring their hands back to the hip, they still maintain a guard and produce more than enough force. So why then are we pulling one hand back to the hip in nearly all of our techniques or at least our basic techniques in our karate? So the returning hand, we call hikite, and this translates to pulling hand. Okay, so we are literally pulling with this hand back to the hip, or in some styles, in Okinawan styles, they pull a little higher by the rib. In Shotokan, we pull a little lower by the hip joint. So if we look at older images of like Funakoshi and that, you know, the founder of Shotokan, we see that he uses that hand to pull his opponent into techniques, you know, pulling your opponent and unbalancing or even tripping the opponent. So we're using that hand to manipulate our opponent rather than thinking about punching, you know, with a hand back on the side. If we was punching with nothing in the hand, it's best to keep the hand up and keep a guard, as we would see in more like modern kumite or sport fighting kind of situations. You know, it makes no sense to have a hand down here when there's nothing in his hand. We want to be covering our head if we're going to be punching. Only when we have a grip on them, their jacket or their arm or their wrist, maybe their head, and we can pull them into that technique to kind of magnify the force, or as I said, to unbalance the opponent. So I'm going to show a rough example of what I'm talking about, please. So one hand will be taking a grip on their wrist, for example, and then the other hand will be coming into that like maybe Agyuki position. So we're making that gap there. I'm taking a grip on his sleeve. We can trap that even closer and pull him in like this. We can use it for when we make our sotoki to pull against that wrist and you know, pull the opponent about basically. We see this obviously quite a lot in judo or grappling arts where one hand is pulling, so we're trying to trip the opponent and pull them off balance. And this is the reason we pull that hand back in our karate techniques. So part of the problem really comes from kind of competition style karate where the rules made it so that we had to have a hand back on the hip in order to score the technique. Not so much in the more modern stuff, but a little bit older, maybe Shogo Ippon style kumite, where the hand, you had to demonstrate a good, you know, form with the hand coming back to the hip, which left the face exposed. And then obviously other people see this and think that we don't cover our faces in our kumite. But if we think about always using that returning hand as a grip, a pull, you know, this kind of action, it opens up all kinds of ideas and applications in our kion and our kata as well. So when you start looking at your katas now, you've got hands that are pulling back and you're using different techniques. It really opens the kata up to many more ideas that we can hopefully progress our understanding of karate. If we look at videos of like real street fights or, you know, self-defense situations, quite often the people are grabbing each other all the time. You know, one hand is on the opponent and they're trying to throw punches or trying to pull each other about. So it's a natural movement to want to grab onto your opponent to kind of restrain them a little bit or to pull them into a more advantageous position. I mean, I've done videos on here before and people say no one grabs you in a fight, but the proof is out there, you know. We've got whole martial arts based on grabbing each other, like judo and jiu-jitsu and stuff. So it does happen, you know. People are grabbing onto each other and trying to manipulate each other to try and throw punches from a position where they're not going to get hit. Because that's the idea, isn't it? We want to try to protect ourselves so we're not getting hit. So being able to pull someone into a position that we're not going to get hit and we can maybe end the situation there is obviously going to be of benefit. And like I said, when we go into kata and stuff, all those movements are there. So all the movements where we're pulling against, you know, pulling towards the body each time, we are pulling them into a position where they are maybe off balance a little bit, and then we can be throwing elbows or various different techniques into the opponent to end the situation. If you're interested in getting some martial arts inspired streetwear and some gym wear, check out Art Martial Clothing. I'm partnered with them. They've got some really nice stuff. I'll put a discount code and a link in the video description down below, so check them out. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel if you've not done already. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what else you'd like to see here. And thank you. I'll see you in the next one.